There comes a moment on the path when the fire stops consuming you and starts radiating from within you. It's quiet, almost anticlimactic. No cosmic fanfare, no angels descending, no lightning bolts. Just a deep, undeniable knowing something has shifted. You're not who you were, and you'll never be again. This is not the beginning of your awakening, it's the final stage. The last layer. The moment when the dark chosen one finally realizes the darkness wasn't a prison, it was a womb. And now you've emerged, not as a seeker, but as a transmitter. Not as a student, but as a living code. But how do you know for sure? How can you tell that you've actually entered the final stage when illusion is still so seductive and ego is so clever? The first sign is that you stop needing to be understood. You used to twist yourself into knots, trying to explain your inner world to people who weren't capable of holding it. You'd overshare, overteach, overprove, hoping someone, anyone, would finally say, "I get you." But now, you don't need that anymore. You've accepted that your soul is fluent in a language most people haven't remembered yet. And instead of trying to translate yourself, you just exist fully, unapologetically, truthfully. You say less, but your presence speaks more. You walk into a room and sense everything, but you don't let anything pull you out of center. You realize that being misunderstood is part of the role you came here to play. And instead of resisting it, you let it refine you. You let it sharpen your clarity. You let it build your inner silence. Because now, your truth doesn't need to be validated, it just is. The second sign is that you no longer chase healing, you live from wholeness. In the earlier stages, healing was your obsession. You were a detective of your own trauma. You dove into every shadow, dissected every trigger, journaled every wound. And that was sacred. That was necessary. But now, you don't seek healing like it's a destination. You've realized you were never broken. The pain was never a punishment. It was a portal. And now that you've walked through it, you no longer identify with the wound. You've made peace with your scars. You don't need to fix yourself, you need only to be yourself fully. Not the perfect self, not the enlightened self. Just the real one. And from that realness, healing flows naturally through your words, your touch, your breath, your presence. You become the medicine, not because you try to be, but because your wholeness is contagious. The third sign is that you start losing interest in spiritual performance. You no longer feel the need to sage every room, pull cards every morning, or explain your energy with a list of astrology transits. You honor the tools, yes, but you are no longer dependent on them. You've realized that the rituals were never the power you were. You don't need to look spiritual to be connected. You don't need to post your light to prove your depth. You don't need to chant your way into alignment, you are alignment. And when you do engage in spiritual practices, it's not for performance, it's for pleasure. It's because it feels good. It's because it deepens your connection to the mystery, not because it earns you a badge. You've outgrown the costume. You've become the temple. And now, your life is the ritual. The fourth sign is you begin to experience sustained neutrality. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop clinging and collapsing. You can experience intense emotion, rage, grief, love, fear, and still remain anchored. You don't get hijacked by every wave. You feel everything, but you don't become it. There's a still point inside you that doesn't move, no matter how wild the storm gets. You know what's yours and what's not. You know how to hold space without absorbing. You know how to witness without reacting. And because of this, people begin to gravitate toward you not because you're loud, but because you're stable. You become the eye of the storm, the one who can sit in the fire without flinching, the one who can hold someone's chaos without needing to fix it, the one who is no longer ruled by emotion, but informed by it. The fifth sign, and this one is perhaps the most profound, is that you begin to see every single person as a mirror of God, even if they don't know it yet. You stop dividing the world into awake and asleep. You stop judging people who are still lost in illusion. You recognize the divine in their distortion. You see the light buried beneath their shadow. And because of this, you move through the world with compassion that doesn't feel soft, it feels feral. It's not pity, it's not tolerance, it's reverence. You can feel someone's pain and not patronize them. You can see someone's ego and not attack them. You can witness someone's unconsciousness and not make it about superiority. Because you remember you were there too. And someone loved you anyway. Someone saw you in the dark. And now you become that someone, not with words, with presence. That's the revolution. That's the remembering. That's the mark of the final stage, not that you rise above others, but that you descend into the world with love fierce enough to hold it all. And now I ask you something that only the soul can answer honestly. Are you truly ready to stop seeking the light outside of you and start being it quietly, humbly, consistently, and no matter who's watching? Because that's where we are now. No more proving, no more performing, no more waiting for the world to recognize you. You've been chosen by the dark, by the fire, by the silence, and now the only question is, will you live like it? In the next part, we'll explore the remaining two signs, the ones that seal the final stage, the ones that turn integration into activation. And we'll walk through how to live in this world as one who no longer seeks to awaken, but simply is. Because you didn't come here to escape the world. You came here to infuse it with your frequency. If you've made it this far, you already know this path was never about becoming special. It was about becoming real. The final stage of the dark chosen one's awakening isn't a destination you arrive at with trumpets and halos. It's an internal shift so vast, so subtle, so complete, that the entire world begins to feel different. Not because it changed, but because you did. You're not chasing light anymore. You're not running from shadow. You're holding both with equal reverence. You've become the threshold between the two. And now you walk the earth as a living code, one who doesn't preach awakening, but embodies it so fully that others begin to remember who they are just by being near you. That's the power of these final signs. They don't elevate you above others, they anchor you deeper into your mission. These last two signs are not just indicators of arrival, they are invitations into radical responsibility. Because once you know who you are, the only thing left to decide is, how will you live now that you remember? The sixth sign that you've entered the final stage of your awakening is that you experience a death of urgency. There is no more rush, no more grasping, no more desperate hunger to get there. You stop sprinting toward outcomes. You stop obsessing over timelines. You stop demanding that life move faster to match your ego's idea of progress. Instead, you begin to move with a different rhythm, slower, deeper, wiser. You trust the timing of everything. You know that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means your actions are now rooted in alignment, not anxiety. You don't chase, you allow. You don't push, you pulse. You listen to the signals of your body, the whispers of the field, the guidance of your soul. And when life doesn't go your way, you don't collapse. You inquire. You adjust. You receive. Because you've stopped trying to control the river and started becoming one with its flow. That's the death of urgency. And in its place, you find sovereignty. The seventh and final sign is that you begin to live in service to something greater than yourself without sacrificing yourself. This is the paradox that most never reach. In the earlier stages of awakening, you swing between extremes. First, you serve no one but yourself. Then, you try to serve everyone and lose yourself in the process. But in the final stage, the pendulum settles. You realize that true service is not martyrdom. It's not self-erasure. It's alignment that radiates outward. You no longer say yes out of guilt. You no longer say no out of fear. You move from clear assignment. Sometimes you lead. Sometimes you rest. Sometimes your service is loud. Sometimes it's so subtle no one sees it, but the soul you just silently activated in passing. You don't need credit. You don't need applause. You don't even need recognition. You just need resonance. You are no longer trying to help the world, you are being the frequency that heals it. Every breath, every choice, every step becomes a transmission. You become the sermon, the teaching, the field itself. And here's what's wild. Once you reach this point, life starts moving through you in ways that defy logic. You speak words you didn't plan. You write messages you didn't think up. You find yourself in the exact right place at the exact right moment, saying the exact thing someone needed to hear. You're not orchestrating it, you're allowing it. You're not hustling to change lives. You're simply staying aligned with your essence, and lives change around you. People start calling you a healer, a guide, even a mystic. But you know the truth. You're just someone who remembered who they are. And in that remembering, you gave others permission to do the same. That's what it means to be a living code, not to be followed, but to activate. And now, the real integration begins. Because the final stage of awakening is not the end, it's the re-entry. You return to your family, your job, your community, your everyday life, but with new eyes. You don't escape the world. You infuse it. You bring your frequency into systems that forgot their soul. And you walk into rooms and hold a vibration so strong that old patterns start to shatter just from your presence. You speak, and your words cut through illusion like a sword. You smile, and someone crying behind the eyes suddenly feels seen. You touch, and lifetimes of pain begin to soften. You are not doing anything special. You are simply being fully you, awake, anchored, aligned. The world doesn't need another spiritual celebrity. It needs you real, raw, embodied. rooted in truth. But here's the final question, one that no one can answer but you. Now that you've seen who you really are, will you dare to live it every single day, no matter the cost? Because awakening is not a one-time event. It's a daily devotion, a sacred yes, a vow to never again abandon your knowing for acceptance, a decision to embody your soul's frequency in a world that teaches you to forget. You will be tested. You will be misunderstood. You will be tempted to go back to sleep. But the codes you now carry, they are alive. They are awake. They are hungry to be lived. And if you choose them, if you become them, your life will become a mirror that reflects what is possible when a human being remembers their divinity and chooses to live it fully. In the next and final part, we'll explore how to stabilize this new level of embodiment. How to stay anchored in awakening, even when the world tries to pull you back. Because the final stage is not just about knowing who you are, it's about walking it, breathing it, living it out loud, no matter what. Now that you've entered the final stage of the dark chosen one's awakening, your real work begins, not the kind that's visible, performative, or validated by metrics. I mean the inner work of holding your frequency steady in a world running on distortion. You don't rise into the sky like some untouchable master. You descend deeper into the body, deeper into the earth, deeper into humanity, because that's where the real anchoring happens. This is what separates those who peak in their spiritual awakening from those who live it. Stabilization is the final frontier. It's not about staying in a peak state, it's about becoming undisturbable. That doesn't mean you don't feel. It means your identity doesn't collapse when you feel. You become a living flame, burning clean, steady, unshakable, no matter what life throws at you. And trust me, life will test your embodiment. Not because it's cruel, but because it's precise. It wants to see if your truth is just a vibe or a vow. To stabilize in the final stage, you must make devotion your new default. Not devotion to a deity, a philosophy, or some external system. I'm talking about devotion to your frequency. That means you wake up every single day and choose to align with your soul, regardless of how you feel. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for permission. You don't wait for the stars to align. You become the alignment. You make your breath your prayer, your movement your meditation, your silence your sanctuary. You stop reaching for what's outside and start rooting into what's inside. It's not glamorous. It's not always fun. But it's real. And realness is your new spiritual practice. Because in a world built on illusion, the most rebellious act is to stay true to your essence, no matter what. That's devotion. That's discipline. That's the invisible work that no one claps for, but the universe feels every time. Another key to stabilization is refined energetic hygiene. In the final stage, it's not enough to protect your energy, you must learn to curate it. You are now a tuning fork, a transmitter. That means your field must be clean, clear, and coherent. Not perfect, congruent. You can no longer afford to engage in relationships, conversations, or environments that pull you back into distortion. You must become ruthless with your resonance. That doesn't mean isolating. It means discerning. You stop giving people access to you out of guilt. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop negotiating your intuition. You understand now that your energy is sacred. It's a gift, and not everyone is meant to receive it. You start engaging with people from your overflow, not your emptiness. You don't pour to be needed. You pour because you're full. And when you're not full, you pause, you rest, you retreat. Because your presence is no longer casual, it's calibrating reality itself. And perhaps the most advanced layer of stabilization is radical self-trust. In the early stages, you needed signs, you needed synchronicities, you needed validation. But now, you follow your knowing without evidence. You move without needing to explain. You act without needing to justify. You trust the nudge. You honor the whisper. You follow the energetic thread, even when your mind doesn't understand it. This is mastery. This is what it means to walk as a living flame. You're no longer outsourcing your clarity. You are your own oracle. You're no longer waiting for confirmation. You are the confirmation. And when doubt creeps in, and you don't collapse. You return. You come back to center. You remember, the same force that carried you through the darkness is the same force pulsing through your chest right now. You are not lost. You are becoming. Again and again. Every day. So let me ask you, soul to soul, are you willing to live a life so aligned with your truth that it disrupts everything false around you, not by force, but by frequency? Because that's what this final stage demands. Not spiritual superiority, not detachment from the world, but embodied, grounded, heart-led ferocity. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that simply is. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be the flame that reminds others they can light themselves back up too. And that flame, it never begs to be seen. It just burns. Quiet, consistent, unapologetic. That is who you are now, not a seeker, not a student, not a victim of awakening, but the one who has returned from the fire and chose to stay lit. This is the completion of the cycle, the end of forgetting, the beginning of living it out loud. You've walked through the shadow. You've met your guides. You've died and been reborn. And now you walk not just with wisdom, but with frequency. You are the message. You are the portal. You are the flame. Let it burn. Let it guide. Let it live through you. Because the world doesn't need more light workers who fear the dark. It needs flame carriers who have walked through it and remembered who they are inside it. And now, that's you. Walk accordingly. The transmission has begun.